Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my show. This is the show where I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So, it's quarantine time. We don't know what the fuck to do. So I put myself a challenge. I want to make a home cinema. And you're gonna ask me, how are you gonna make a home cinema? Well, I'm gonna. This is for educational purposes, of course. So the challenge that I'm putting onto myself is that I have to do it all in just a console application, and it has to stream a video from a torrent file that I'm gonna extract from some sort of source like this website, and it's gonna stream it to a local URL that I can just plop it in my browser and I can watch it from there. So basically, this ball thing at the bottom is us. We're gonna do a request to YTMX, then it is gonna reply to us with hopefully some easy access to a torrent file. Then we're gonna start downloading that torrent file locally, so I guess something like that. And then we're gonna start streaming it to some sort of HTTP service, so it can be rendered on the Chrome browser. So that is the idea. Let's get to the execution. So I've been searching a little bit on the internet, and I found this mono-torrent library, manage torrent files and download them and upload and all that stuff. We'll dive into more details when we actually get to using it, and when we'll definitely not have any issues with it. As for streaming the HTTP stuff to the browser, the streaming the file, so we can replay it on the browser, system.net, which is a built-in namespace, actually has an HTTP listener which we can use as a server. So every time I press the recall button, I do that. Let's actually zoom in so maybe you can see a little bit better. And let's start adding some of those things. Well, actually just add the mono-torrent, was it? Alright. Dunzy. Okay. So we'll be able to be using that. Actually, let's go ahead and import that system.net and use that HTTP listener. I'll just call this server for now, so probably forever. So let's go ahead and do server the prefixes that add. And then here we'll be using our local URL. So if you go to the SMD and just do ipconfig, you'll see this IPv4 address. This is the local address, but it's an address that can be accessed from another computer on my on the same network as yourself. So I can, for example, access this website on my phone, which is convenient for home cinema because you don't want to be the only one able to watch it. Okay, anyways, enough of me rambling. So just do that. With a bar, maybe. Yeah, it has a bar in there. So this should be able to reply. I don't know. We probably need to call some start function. There you go. Server that. Let's see if there. Yeah. So there is some async library stuff, and we can just assign it a callback. Okay. So let's say on context arrived. I guess we'll pass in the server as a state. So we'll just automatically generate it. And here, let's do some debugging and see what it gives us. So the async state is what we fed it in. So if we do this, then we can say HTTP listener server, it's equal to the async state. So we'll get the server. Server.end get context, just pass in that thing, and it gives us the context as a returning object. So we'll just call this context for now. We'll see all of that, what all of that is about. So let's say context dot require, yes, there's nothing else. So HTTP method gets the HTTP method. Okay. Oh, okay. So whatever. So let's just get the raw URL and see what it says. What other type of URL do we have? URL without the host and port bar. Okay, Let's get the raw URL and display it. And meanwhile we are here, just so we don't make it end, why don't we just call the begin get context again, so it just pauses the next time it has to pause. So this is basically making make an infinite loop for receiving contexts. And let's just do a console.readline so we don't close right away. Okay, let me just double check it's recording. So I clicked the wrong button. This is basically converting the string to a bunch of bytes. And you just gotta set the length of the packet that you're sending, and then just gotta write everything. And when you're done writing the amount of data that you specified here, you just close the stream. So if we start, this is what we had. So if you type whatever in here and you press enter using the URL we set up over here, you're actually going to see that we get a hello world, and I also output the URL you put up here. But other than that, this is working, so I was actually ready to start going into some torrent stuff. It looks like first we need to specify some engine settings that are going to be used by the torrent engine, they call it. Oh, yeah, first I got to close that. Okay, so I'm gonna torrent.client to actually access that. So they have a bunch of settings. Let's see what they have. So settings that allow encryption, definitely true. You definitely wanna try and encrypt everything. So ISP stuff and whatnot. Maximum open files, maximum upload speed. I'm gonna try and put this to a low value for now. Mostly always and encryption types. Non-plain text. So I'm guessing this is a mask. So I'm just gonna put these two in there. Let's just make sure this is a mask. Flags, not a mask. Flags. Yeah, I don't know why I said flags. So we can just do this. I keep fucking up with the thing. Upload speed. Because if I start uploading a lot, my internet just goes down. It's just how my internet works. If I start uploading too much, I like take ages to upload a single 5 megabytes video. It's amazing. Sometimes it doesn't even work. Anyways, so they have encryptions, safe path. Okay, that's something that the maximum upload speed, whatever. So this is something that is definitely interesting. Where to save the downloads. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to open the containing folder of the project. I'm going to go over to the debugging thing. I'm just going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this resources. And this is where I'm going to hold a bunch of the stuff. And inside this resources folder, I'm going to put the downloads folder. And I'm also going to put a torrents folder where I'm going to store all the torrents that I'm currently downloading. Safe path equals to resources downloads. The next thing up is going to be us making the client engine. So let's make this a static variable client engine. There you go. So I'm going to call this, let's call this uTorrent, just because I'm probably going to use torrent for the actual files. And I'm going to make it a static because I'm sure I'm going to be needing it in further down the line. So I'll just keep it there for convenience sake. Engine settings. So I wanted to see directly if we could download the torrent from a website and then load it from a URL. So I went to the site that we talked about, and I downloaded this torrent file. So I'm just gonna copy the address, and we'll see what we can do with it. So I'm gonna make a new function. So private static void, let's call it load torrent, why not? And I'm gonna give it the URL. So the idea is that we just give it a URL and it loads the torrent directly and saves it on the torrent file path that we specified. So let's do that. So load torrent, and we'll just feed it the URL that corresponds to that. And okay, so let's make a Torrent Manager. Torrent Manager. And let's see how we can build it. So, okay, so we do need to make a torrent file first. It's not a magnet file, so link. So I have to make it. Let's call this torrent. Very, very creative. And okay, so we cannot create it directly. So does it have? Okay, it does have some static functions. So we can give it BD, whatever that is. Oh, hey, you can give it a URL and a location. But I like the idea of being able to maybe resume the download later or something. So we'll save it on disk, and since they already have a specific thing for it, let's just use it. So up and then a location. So we talked about that. We're gonna have it. We have the folder in here. What was it? Up, resources. Yeah, resources and torrents. There you go. And torrents. Now that we have the torrent set up, we can actually load it from with our Torrent Manager. Safe path. Do we need to specify a safe path again? It just sounds a little redundant. I guess we do. Yeah, so the safe path is going to be the same thing, just resources and downloads. Actually, we might change it. Okay, we'll come back to this. Let's just make a new torrent settings. There you go. So let's just keep it default for now. So the interesting things with magnet links is that the torrent can be has like a unique hash to it. So every torrent has a unique hash, and that's where we get here. So we can actually go ahead and get the hash and convert it to a text string, and we just have a hash. So this will be unique to this specific torrent that we are downloading, and we can actually make a specific little place for it in a way, so it download stuff in that specific folder, and we'll keep it isolated from everyone else. So if we're downloading two torrents that have the same file name, they won't overlap. So yeah, it's just gonna make things a lot easier to manage. Okay, we got that going on. Let's see what we can do with the Torrent Manager. So actually, let's register it. So what did I call it? Oh, uTorrent, that's what I call it. Let's register it, because we've seen it on the example they do register it. And I'm curious what else the Torrent Manager can do. Monitor. Oh, we can actually start it from here. So let's give it a start. We'll give it a start, and let's see what events it has. So maybe we can keep track of what is happening. Torrent state changed. Looks interesting, so let's go ahead and say on torrent state changed, and we'll just regenerate it. There you go. A very inconvenient way. So just console.writeLine e that new state. So this will just give us a clue of what's actually happening. Let's go ahead and see what happens. Running it, and of course, could not download torrent file from the specific URL. Unauthorized access exception. Cannot access. So it's saying that it cannot access the. Oh, of course. We need to actually give it a name here. So this is where there's a little problem. I wanted to save it with the same name as the hash, but we only know the hash after we get it downloaded. So what I'm thinking of doing is, how do you get the temporary folder again? Okay, so with system.io, that path, that get temporary path, we get a path to the user's temporary folder. Okay, so we can actually save it to this, and we'll give it a name like test.torrent. Well, let's call it something a little better, tmp.torrent. So this will get it downloaded, then we can get the hash. And after we get the hash, we can just do a simple file, actually, let's just do file.copy and import system.io, because I think we'll be using a little more down the line. Oh my god. There you go, and just import the system.io. This will just make sure that we'll just have it at hand. So the source name, oh yeah, I can actually delete that. So okay, so we need the source name. Let's just do. Oh my god, I keep pressing every wrong button. Source is equal to this, and we'll leave that. Oop, and then we'll do string destination. So this is where we want to copy it to, and this is where we actually go ahead and copy it to resources. And we'll do hash that torrent. Now, I don't think this is the most the prettiest way to do it. I think you should probably do it with the string.format and come over here and do something like this, and then something like that. It's probably be more efficient. Let's just try and at least do something right. Okay, we're gonna copy that. So I think copy fails if there's already a file there. So it'll just say if the destination already exists, then we're gonna go ahead and return, and might as well let us know that something happened. So I'm gonna go ahead and say console.writeLine error loading torrent file already exists. Okay, let's run it. Oh my god, could not find a part of the path. Okay, of course you cannot find a path. Let's run it again. Okay, it's running now. We see nothing printed on screen, which is not necessarily a good thing, because we did start it and we did say for it to debug on. But we have the torrent file here. There's nothing on the download, so it doesn't seem to be downloading anything. So let's just try and see what they. So this, we know that they copied the file correctly. You know what? Instead of actually outputting an error if the file exists, we'll just copy if the file doesn't exist. Otherwise, we'll just load it. So I'm trying to understand why it's not working. Maybe we have to register it and then we can start it. We'll see if it changes anything. Oh, there you go. Starting hashing, downloading it. So it started to download, apparently. I keep opening the wrong folder. And we don't have anything in the downloads folder. We'll give it a second and we'll see if it adds something. There you go. So I gave it a bit of some time, and it made the folder, which is the hash name, which should be the same as the torrent name, which it is. And if we go inside it, it actually started downloading the movie. Okay, that's perfect. So during my recording, I forgot to record something, so I'm recording from the future here. The next stage in our program is to try and stream a video file. So I took a sample video file, .mp4, that we'll be trying to stream to the browser from the code through the HTTP service. So this is the file we'll be using, and it'll be in our resources folder, and this is what we're going to work with. Okay, so it didn't took me long to actually find some code examples, and I found some in C# actually, which is fantastic. So we have some code here, which might seem a little confusing at first glance. So we'll go over some of these lines, and we'll just see what we can make out of it. So me from the future, you see code that wasn't made in the video. I'm sorry, I forgot to press record again. But so this is the function above you see is the context function that we get. So I simply just add another check. So I'll check if the raw URL is equal to /video. Then I made a simple function that's called stream video file. I send the context and a path to the video file that I just showed you before, and everything else is the same. Now it is worth noting that HTTP doesn't support a lot of video formats. Yeah, so we got MP4, OGG, and WebM. Okay, so let's do that one. Let me get the response over here. So it starts by adding some headers. So an HTTP response has headers and then the data. There you go. So accept ranges bytes. So what this is saying to the browser, so tell the browser to specify the range in bytes. This basically means that the browser can actually ask you to give a specific range, for example, just 5 bytes from the end or a number of bytes from the middle. It allows, so for example, if you're streaming a video, you can actually skip, and the browser will ask you for the bytes at the specific file position. So the content type, this is also very interesting, and you can actually do it as a header too, I believe. But I mean, if it's an existing thing, content type, there you go. This is where we specify the file format, and this in our case is going to be MP4. So going back to that HTML thing, this is what it stands for. This is so the type, so MP4 video MP4, the content type. There you go. Next up, they set it to send chunked false, so I believe this just makes it to be a continuous chunked false and continuous stream. So then they proceed to open the file, and so they can, I guess, read yeah, they got the file length and actually read the file. We have to be careful with this because we are reading a file that Torrent is writing to, so the file is already open. So after looking a little bit, you can actually have a file share. So yeah, this is basically what we have to do. We have to open the file with the reading access, and we have to share read and write, so we can both access the same file. Well, I'm reading and he's writing. Well, I'm just gonna copy this for now. I'll do a video file. Or a file stream, or I would just call it file stream. So the path, I don't even have to change anything. It just works out of the box. So going back to our little code snippet, we need to read the range that the browser is requesting us to read. So this is what I was talking about. This is what this is allowing. So the browser can ask us a specific range for us to read from. And it seems that the range is in this specific format here. And that is what he's trying to read with all of this messy code over here. That, and it also seems to update the status code and adding another header. So I'm trying to see what I can do to make it a little better than this. Well, actually, it's not such an ugly solution. Splitting in twice, so it actually gives it. Okay, I'm actually down with this. So, oh yeah, he checks if the range is not null. We'll do it too. Because if it is null, then we cannot access it. It will just give us an error. So if the range is a null, we go ahead and read that, and then we're gonna have int. Is it int? What sort of? He used the long, so let's use a long too. So long. Let's define them here. So long bytes start. I'd rather count. Okay, they got bytes start. Let's put it 0 long bytes end. So this we can actually initialize it to the end of the actual file. No, we can't. I'm lying to you. Yes, we can. Never mind. I'm not lying to you. I never lied to you. So here we just say bytes start. Oh my god, just type the thing. So considering the way that the thing is, it's 1 because. So it was bytes equals, so this is number, another number. So if we're splitting this will be split into the first part bytes, second part's 15, and the third part is going to be this one. So 1 will basically be accessing this value here. And we're just going to do long.parse, parse this into an actual number. Next thing they do is read the bytes end. Let's just do what they did. So let's do that. So we're checking if the string, if basically if we have a number over here, and then we say bytes end. Let's just do a long.parse as well, because that's what we started with. Okay, so we're in the first and the last one. Then we just need to send a response type and add the headers ourselves. So I believe this last content range is we adding a. We just got to reply back with the content that we are sending. And so this is the first number, where we start. This is where we end. But this is inclusive. So if we put 0, 1, we're sending 1 byte. And this is the full length. So we're sending this partial data from all of this data. Okay, makes sense? So here we just got to replace some values. So -1 again because it's inclusive. And just as last time, we need to specify how big our data is gonna be. So let's do it up here to keep it nice and simple. So let's say content length 64. I believe 64 means it's a long. Yeah, so it's a long, it's equal to something, and let's just say this that length. So this is the total amount of data that we're gonna send, which is wrong. This is wrong here because we're not gonna send all of that data. We need to actually do that here, because I just checked that, and we need to send how much amount of information we're gonna actually send. Otherwise, we're gonna end up breaking it. So we need to do that. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, so now we actually need to do the reading and what is this? Oh, okay, so if you want to download the file instead of streaming, you can do that, but I see no reason to do it because the file is already being downloaded, brother. So this is the actual fun part. We just seek to the position that we have to start in, then we start reading and sending it until we cannot do it anymore, and then we close the thing. So to do that, we're gonna need a buffer. So we need a byte. I just typed buffer in there anyway. So buffer. I'm gonna make a new buffer. Let's give it a size of 9,000. Let's also go ahead and seek to the specific position that we have to seek. So bytes end, and let's try to actually write something. Seek origin that begins. So we're gonna start from the start of the file, and we're gonna move from there. And then here we're gonna do a while loop, because we're gonna write until we haven't finished. We also do we'll enclose this inside some try and catch thing, because if you try and write and the browser closes the video, it's gonna fail. So this is just gonna be like console.writeLine failed to write, connection closed. We should probably actually catch the exception and print the message. That will be a lot smarter. Let me check if I'm still recording. I am. Perfect. I forgot to press a record button, but that's fine because I just wrote a couple lines. I wrote this line too. So okay, yeah. At the end, we're gonna go ahead and go response that output that close, and here's where we actually do the fun part, which we send the data. So to send the data, we'll just do while our position is smaller than the end position. We want to go ahead and read. So if I stream that read, we'll try and fill our buffer with the data from the file. But we can imagine that maybe it will not read the full 9,000 bytes, maybe if the file is smaller than that, for example. So this will return how many bytes it actually read, and it will advance in the file the amount of bytes that it read automatically, so that the next time we read, we won't be reading in the same spot, we'll be already in a further position. And as you'd imagine, we need to actually output it to the stream, so let's go ahead and write what we just read. It's pretty simple. We're just passing the information along. And this time, instead of doing buffer.length, we actually just send the data that we read. So let's go ahead and run the program, and let's try it and see what happens. Yes! We actually did it! We did it! That's amazing. So we are streaming a video from a console app onto the thing, and it's working. Now, next step to this is actually streaming a torrent file, which is going to be a little bit more complicated, but it's doable.